Wes, let me get this straight. You are a Rhodes Scholar, a college football athlete, an Army combat veteran, a nonprofit CEO, and a governor of Maryland. Fair to say the most impressive resume on LinkedIn?
I don't know, man. I haven't seen yours yet.
Yeah, no, this is people like an improv teacher for 10 years, then they're going to be very impressed. You're speaking tonight at the convention.
I am speaking tonight.
Yes.
Excited for it.
I spent a little time over there talking to people yesterday, and there is an energy. People keep talking about this vibe. Yeah. I'm curious what you've seen, and do you think this energy now is actually going to translate into electoral success?
It will, and the vibe and the energy is real, because I think both people see that there is a clear path to victory, and they understand what's at stake. I think that we have this kind of unique thing that's happening right now, where we both have the moment, and you have the candidate. Where you have both the moment of people understanding that we're talking about the ideas of economic freedoms. We're talking about the fact that we should be a country that should be respected. We're talking about we should be a country that actually has a chance. Where the idea of an American dream shouldn't be a punchline for communities, right? And we have a candidate whose life embodies fighting for freedoms, whose life embodies protecting us from predators, whose life embodies standing up and raising her hand when the country asked her to. And so I think this combination that we have right now of Vice President Harris and Governor Wes is great, because it's like, this is what victory feels like. And this is what being proud of your country feels like.
Sounds like you're measuring some drapes here, is that right?
Well, no, because we have work to do. Mm-hmm. You know, listen, and I remember, you know, when I joined the Army when I was 17 years old. In fact, and like real talk, when I first joined, I was so young, my mother had to sign the paperwork for me.
Really?
Yeah, but after my teenage years, she signed whatever paperwork the Army put in front of her. It was actually pretty easy. But we learned something there. It was this idea that nothing is given, everything is earned. Mm-hmm. Nothing is given, everything is earned. Right? Mm-hmm. And I think the way we are looking at this race right now is we've got to go earn it. Mm-hmm. We've got to go earn it with every voter. We've got to go earn it with every community. We've got to go earn it with every constituency. And we have now 76 days to go out there and earn it. And that's exactly what we plan on doing.
Now, I will say, though, there's an excitement, but a criticism is there's not a lot of policy right now, and there's a big question. How would the Kamala Harris administration look different than what the Biden administration would look like? Yeah. Do you see this as a continuation of the Biden policies or a marked difference with the Kamala Harris administration?
Well, one thing I want to be fair, the policies and the impacts that we've seen from President Biden and the Biden-Harris administration have been pretty remarkable. Mm-hmm. And so we cannot, this idea that the vice president, in order to win or in order to have a successful presidency, should do some hard pivot from the work that her and President Biden did together, I would just say the only problem with that argument is facts aren't on your side, right? That let's forget, when the president took over, we almost had an attempted coup in this country.
I know, right? I was there.
Yes, you were. Yeah. Yes, you were.
Working, to be clear, working. Yes.
I'm glad we established that difference.
Just to be clear. If this goes on tape and the election doesn't go the way you want, I want it to be very clear.
But I think the idea of her putting out policies, I think she's already begun to do that. She's already talked about things like she is going to have an expansion of the child tax credit to $6,000, which, by the way, which would be one of the most, when she enacts that, that is going to be one of the most effective ways to fight child poverty that we have seen in this nation's history. So she's already starting to put things out that are really important and get us very excited.
Do you imagine, so in Maryland, you've been pushing some pretty progressive angles when it comes to climate change, gun control, health care. Yeah. Do you see the Harris administration following suit and helping in that way?
Well, I think that everything we've gotten done in Maryland has been because we've had a great partner in the Biden-Harris administration. I mean, look at what's happened in our state. When I was inaugurated, Maryland was ranked 43rd in the country in unemployment. right? Now, for 12 straight months, Maryland has amongst the lowest unemployment rates in the entire country. Our unemployment rate right now is 2.8%. That we said we have now have a legalized cannabis market inside the state of Maryland, but I said there's no way that we are going to celebrate the benefits of legalization if we do not address the consequences of criminalization. And so about, a couple months ago, I signed the largest mass pardon for cannabis convictions in the history of the United States. But the reason I bring those things up is this. It was all done because I had the right partner in Washington. I had a White House that actually saw us, that worked with us. And so all the momentum that we are seeing when it comes to economic growth, the momentum, Maryland now has the fastest drop in homicides and violent crimes in the entire country right now. This is all happening because we have the right kind of partner that we need in Washington.
And to be clear, is now an appropriate time to celebrate the legalization of marijuana?
Oh, what do you?
I'm just. My parents are in the audience. I just want to sign off from a governor in case I choose to partake.
Yes.
I'm curious, as an Army veteran, Tim Walz is catching some flack from people on the right about, as they would characterize it, a mischaracterizing of his credentials as a vet. Is there any amount of service that Republicans won't criticize? Like, how do you see that?
I mean, it's disappointing. It's disingenuous, and frankly, it's pretty dangerous. And particularly, I'm going to be very honest, the fact that this is coming from J.D. Vance is actually comical. And I'm going to tell you why. J.D. Vance, and I deeply respect the service of Corporal J.D. Vance, the work that he did in the military. He should also deeply respect the service of Sergeant Major Tim Walz.
I'm not as well versed in the pecking order, but it seems like Sergeant Major is a pretty good one.
Yeah, listen, when you join the military, if you stay in for a certain amount of time, you hit corporal, right? Less than 1% of all non-commissioned officers will hit the rank of Sergeant Major, okay? So this is just fact. Most people, if you stay in long enough, you hit corporal.
Oh, I see. Stop wasting your time hanging out on that couch, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. But I do, and it goes back to this whole idea of patriotism, which I do. Listen, I served my country, and I led soldiers in combat in Afghanistan. I'm deeply proud of my service. I am in love with my country. I love this country. And I just find it really interesting that, that we're watching on the other side where there's like the idea of patriotism means like having sexual relations with the flag on the side, which by the way, just a total tie comment. I don't know what is up with that ticket and their obsession with fabrics.
They must love the feel on the skin, I suppose.
They love the feel on the skin. Nothing like it.
Yeah, do they respect somebody humping the flag? That seems like an action of disrespect. Yeah. I saw you post about your speech tonight that it was going to be tough. Yeah. I'm curious what you have in store. I'm also curious, in watching this, who the audience is for the DNC.
I think a lot of the audience is going to be, for me, it's the people who are the disaffected. It's the people who, when we say people who are undecided, it's not even just the people who are undecided between Vice President Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. It's the people who are undecided if they're going to go out to the polls. And I tell you, it's actually very personal to me because, when I ran for governor, I had some family members who I had to convince to vote for me.
Really?
Oh, yeah, real talk. And it wasn't that I'm not cool with my family. I'm very cool with my family.
That might be it. Could be it.
There might be a little bit of that,
If you were cool in your family, it might be easier.
But I had to convince them to vote. Like, I don't come from a political family. I don't come from a political background. That's not it's not like I have members of my family who are like, oh man, election day was last week. Yeah. But that's real. You know what I mean? And I think that's real for a lot of folks. I think that the demo that we've got to speak to are the ones, frankly, who still hold a measure of skepticism in their heart, who look at the history of this country and say, you know what, this country hasn't always been fair. And we have to be honest and look at them and say, you're right. That they can say, you know what, the history of this country has been uneven. And you have to look at them and say, spot on. However, we do have to be clear that you can hold that skepticism in your heart, and you should, but that does not mean disengage. Because the people, some of the greatest patriots that we have had in our history are people who actually understood the measure of brokenness that we had in our politics and who still showed up every day and fought for a better country. That's what we need.
Some have said you might have aspirations for that big office someday. After watching politics over the last 12 years, I guess my question would be, why?
I got to tell you, I cannot be more excited to have Kamala Harris to be the next president of the United States. And let me tell you why. I remember months ago when the Key Bridge collapsed in Baltimore. And I remember at 2:02 in the morning when my phone rang and I was told that we now had thousands of workers who now lost their jobs. We now had 13% of my economy that was shut down. And that we had 6 workers who were fixing potholes in 180 feet in the air that night who were now missing. And I remember one of the first calls I got that morning was from Vice President Kamala Harris. I cannot tell you enough how much it means to have a vice president and the president call me that morning as well. First phone call I got from the White House was at 3:30 that morning. As a chief executive, as someone who believes in my state and believes in our people, I cannot tell you enough how much it means to have a White House that is willing to be your partner in the work and that's willing to support you in that work and who understands that everybody should be seen and supported whether they voted for you or not.
Governor Wes Moore, everyone.